Good evening. It's 5:30. We're going to begin our presentations tonight. And our first presentation tonight is from the Girls of the West. Welcome, and thank you for coming down tonight.
Good evening.
Do we have their mic on?
We do?
I'm sorry?
Honored to be here, and it was really a great opportunity for us to talk a little bit about our organization. My name is Mike Kern. I'm the president of the Pikes Peak Range Riders. Ken Brookhart and Everett Cronover. That's okay. We adapt. So the Range Riders were started by two local businessmen, Ken Brookhart and Everett Cronover. And they had a great passion for a local event called the Pikes Peak Bust Rodeo. And they were trying to figure out how to promote it. So they got 40 of their buddies that owned horses and that had a little bit of time on their hands. And so they started in this big, long trek around Pikes Peak and stopped at the local communities to really promote the rodeo. A few years after their first ride, they said, you know, we need to have a big kickoff. So they started the Western Street Breakfast that really launches the Pikes Peak Bust or the Pikes Peak Range Ride. This year, the Street Breakfast will be held on June the 15th, downtown in downtown Colorado Springs. We do that with a lot of help from the local military. And as I'm sure, because you guys have probably heard this speech a couple of times, the neat part about the street breakfast and all of the activities that the rodeo and the range riders are involved in is really to generate and provide funds to the local military families here in our community. There's a great need for it. I know you guys know that, and we're just so happy to be able to be involved in that. This year, our range ride is going to be held up at the Venezia Ranch up by Terriall Reservoir. And like I said, it's, you know, our trek out of town is on June the 15th. And one of the things that I did want to really clean up, because it is a misnomer of the Range Riders. The Range Riders is not a men's only group. The Range Riders are a family organization, and so much of the effort that we do is really centered around our families. Let me tell you something. If my wife didn't support what I was doing, I don't get to do this. Because I'm sure she has a lot of other things she'd rather me be doing than spending 5 days on a horse. But our families are very involved. We have organizations inside our group that are dedicated to families as well as to the young women in our community. As a matter of fact, one of our great organizations is the Rangerettes. This year, that consists of 18 young ladies from local high schools around the area. They ride to promote the rodeo in the state. And then in addition to that, there is a men's only group called the Pikes Peak Range Rider Pivots. They go with the girls, they accompany the girls to the various rodeos, and they also promote the Pikes Peak Bust Rodeo and what we do. One of our great operations that we're very proud of is an organization called the Range Rider Foundation, and that's our 501c3. They generate funds to help promote the Western lifestyle, to help to promote kids' activities that are surrounded in our Western heritage. One of their operations that is a real neat operation is called the Pikes Peak Posse. And what the posse does is it's a group of local businessmen that get together, pool their money, and then they go to the El Paso County Fair as well as the state fair. And they purchase the animals that the 4-H kids in our area have auctioned, and all that money that's generated goes right back to those kids. So it's a great opportunity for them to generate money for their future careers and education. And then the last activity that we're going to talk about, that I'm going to talk about before I turn it over to the highlight, which is the Girl of the West in her aid, is there's a nice event that we hold annually down at the Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame called the Special Rodeo. It's where the Pikes Peak or Stable Strides and Colorado Springs Therapeutic Riding Centers get together and bring their kids that have various handicaps and that type of thing, and they have a little rodeo. And man, I got to tell you something. It is the highlight of my year. It's a fun activity, and it's something that we're very proud of. So I'm going to thank you very much. I really appreciate your service, and thank you very much for giving us the time to talk a little bit about our organization.
Hi, my name's Corlis Palmer. I'm a 21-year volunteer as director of the Girls of the West program. It's really an honor that I have that job. We make about 150 appearances every summer to promote the Pikes Peak Bus Rodeo. I don't know if you saw our truck out there, but we just picked it up this week, and it's really fun. It's furnished by Perkins, and we drive it around to all of our events. I forgot my notes, so I'm just going to have to wing it, and I don't do that very well. But I want to talk about the Girl of the West program. It started in 1922, and this year is 100 years. And the original Girl of the West was Dawn Norris. Her outfit is down in the museum, Pioneers Museum, in the 150th exhibit. And our seamstress recreated their outfits from the original. So every detail is the same as the one 100 years ago. So it's pretty exciting, and that's why they don't look like what they typically do, but it's a really fun event for us to promote. The Girl of the West is a 2-summer program. They try out for aid during our rodeo, and they compete in speech, interview, horsemanship, and appearance. And whoever's chosen becomes the aide for the following year, and it's 2 summers, and then the year after that, she'll become the Girl of the West. So the girls this year, Georgia Stramenis is the Girl of the West. She's a 20-year-old daughter of Jenny and George Stramenis. She grew up riding horses and showing English Western ranch horse, really got involved with that, and knew that she wanted to try out for our program. And she's studying to be in communications. She finished her, whatever the first one, 2-year at us community college, sorry. And now she's at the University of Colorado studying to be communications. And she rides a paint horse gelding named Rock. And you'll be excited to know that our aide this year, Brooke Saltwaddell, 19-year-old daughter of Ray Saltwaddell and Rachel Morgan, is from this area. So it's pretty exciting, and we're glad to have that happen. She is the 19-year-old daughter. She's just done ranch work, she's done a lot of horse stuff, and she's going to school at Pikes Peak in the nursing program, wants to eventually be a neurosurgeon. So that's what we do. I mean, we have really intelligent girls. And Brooke rides a quarter horse named Duke. So please enjoy the Girls of the West.
Hi, my name is Georgia, and I am the Girl of the West.
And I'm Brooke. I'm aide to Girl of the West.
We serve as the proud ambassadors for the Pikes Peak Bus Rodeo, and we're excited to tell you that the best in pro rodeo are coming to Colorado Springs for the 81st Pikes Peak Bus Rodeo NFR Open, July 13th through the 16th, 2022 at the scenic Norris Penrose Event Center. The inaugural NFR Open, powered by Ram, will be one of the biggest rodeos of the 2022 pro rodeo season, with $1 million in payouts. More than 200 contestants from each of the 12 U.S. circuits, plus Canada, will be competing in bareback riding, steer wrestling, team roping, saddle bronc riding, tie-down roping, breakaway roping, barrel racing, and bull riding, with a semifinals and finals on Saturday evening, July 16th, where the national circuit champions will be crowned.
I want to let you know that the Pikes Peak Bust is a special rodeo to me and my family, and Georgia and her family too. We are so proud of everything that it stands for, our Western heritage, the sport of rodeo, and most especially giving back to our local military and their families. Being part of this rodeo is important to me. I'm grateful to be out representing this legacy event that brings so many people together to celebrate all that is good about our country and the growing sport of rodeo, all while honoring the service and sacrifice made by our military and their families.
That is so true, Brooke. And I can also say that without a doubt, you will not want to miss this year's rodeo. Tickets for the 81st Pikes Peak Bus Rodeo are on sale now online at pikespeakerbus.org, and they're selling fast and sellouts are expected. The rodeo runs Wednesday, July 13th through Saturday, July 16th, with evening performances at 6:45 p.m. Wednesday through Saturday evenings, and a Saturday matinee at 12:15 p.m. Discounts are available for kids 12 and under, military, first responders, and groups of 20 or more.
There's lots to do before our rodeo begins. Grounds open at 4 p.m. for the evening performances and 10 a.m. for the Saturday matinee. Come early, avoid the traffic, and enjoy all of the fun in our fan zone. We have mutton busting tryouts, roping demos, pony rides, and a petting zoo. Vendor booths on both sides offer souvenirs, Western shoppings, as well as food and drinks. Our local military is represented at each of our performances. Fort Carson on Wednesday evening, Missile Defense and First Responders on Thursday evening, Space Night on Friday evening, the United States Air Force Academy at the Saturday matinee, and NORAD US Northcom on Saturday evening. We've been supporting the local military since 1946.
All of the performances will start with the Pikes Peak Range Rider Pivots and the Pikes Peak Rangerettes drill teams, followed by the Fort Carson Mounted Color Guard. Then it's top rodeo action. Plus, there's fan favorite mutton bustin'. Everybody loves to watch these fierce kiddos give it their all in hopes of winning a trophy and a medal. After the rodeo, stick around for autographs from the contestants, the Rangerettes, and the Girls of the West. That's us. Then head on over to the Coors Roadhouse Saloon for live music, dancing, and a frosty Coors.
I hope you'll wave to us when you see us in our awesome pink Perkins Ram truck as we head out to represent our rodeo at businesses, military installations, and community events. Speaking of community events, I hope you'll plan to join us bright and early on June 15th for our annual Colorado Springs Western Street Breakfast and official send-off for our range riders on their annual ride. Enjoy the $5 breakfast prepared and served by local military volunteers.
I'm counting on each of you being at this year's rodeo. The dates again are Wednesday, July 13th through Saturday, July 16th. Save time by purchasing your tickets online. You can find all of this information and much more about our rodeo at our website, pikespeakerbus.org. So get ready for the best in professional rodeo at the 81st Pikes Peak Bus Rodeo NFR Open, July 13th through the 16th at the Norris Penrose Event Center in Colorado Springs. See you there!
That a few times.
I heard you only got the script a week ago, so hats off to you guys. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so
for
much.
having us. We
Yeah, that
appreciate
was
it very
fantastic.
much. Thank
Up
you.
on the dais, if you haven't picked it up, is all the information for each of us, for the council members.
And we
So,
do have a couple
yeah.
of those posters here in the back. If you'd like to take them to places of business or anywhere in town, feel free to hang those up.
Okay, well, you've got the economic development lady here, so you got the right person here to give those posters to get out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Yeah,
very
thank
much.
you very, very much. Anybody have anything they'd like to say?
I just want to say that I think this is a fantastic program, and I am so proud of Brooke.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
And the range riders. I know several of the range riders, and I used to ride out at Stable Strides. So your support out there has been invaluable to a lot of people. So it's a fantastic organization in this region.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for you guys supporting us.
All right.
All right,
Thank you.
Okay, that takes us on to our next item, a proclamation declaring that henceforth the second week of May will be recognized as Economic Development Week, and that proclamation was read into perpetuity last week, but Ms. Bailey, I'm sure you have something to say.
Hello, evening, Mayor, Council, and guests with us tonight. It's really hard to follow the girls of the rodeo, I have to say. I didn't bring my attire. I should have brought my Stetson and stuff. I have plenty of hats at the house, so for those that know me very well. But thank you for your time this evening. We do have a proclamation regarding National Economic Development Week in the United States, and we are very proud to be in front of you tonight to recommend the proclamation that was read into perpetuity last year under Mayor Ortega. But economic economic development, just for generality understanding, is a stewardness of identifying job creation, economic vitality for a community, and making that there's equitable wealth and revenue generation to support the longevity of communities' growth and maturity over its time. And so your proclamation in front of you tonight is addressing those attributes that we bring to you as not only my department, but we also do have an Economic Development Board of Commissions that was established in 1987 under that council's tenure as well, and has been serving very, very graciously and through their volunteer servitude to this community. So with that said, that is really the recommendation poised to you this evening.
Okay, well, that was read into perpetuity last year, so we're not reading it again this year, but thank you, and we're just giving it recognition, though.
That is
So,
correct.
Thank you very much for coming in and doing that. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Appreciate all the work you're doing for our businesses and out in the community also. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Okay. Okay, it's 5:46, and our meeting officially begins at 6 p.m., so we're going to take a break until 6 p.m. To the May 10th, 2022 City Council meeting. I'm calling it to order. Please, before we do the Pledge of Allegiance, we're going to have a moment of silence, please, for Specialist Adam Buck, who is a soldier that was stationed at Fort Carson, and the 22 years old lost his life last week. So if we could please have a moment of silence for him. Thank you. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Roll call, please.
Mayor Thompson.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Estes.
Here.
Councilmember Hinton.
Here.
Councilmember Corey.
Here.
Councilmember Rick.
Here.
Councilmember Applegate.
Here.
Councilmember Duncan.
Present.
All 7 members present.
Thank you very much. We're on to item 4.1, presentations. We have Roger Lovell here from the Pikes Peak Regional Building Department for an update. Thank you so much for coming down tonight.
Good morning, Roger Lovell, and thank you for making some time for me tonight. I appreciate that. I'm Roger Lovell. I'm the building official for Pikes Peak Regional Building. We do all the building permits and whatnot. And I wanted to take a brief moment to update you on some legislation that is still kind of in the process of going through the state, but has a significant impact on our communities, to include the city of Fountain, especially as it pertains to affordable housing. But not just affordable housing, this applies to all construction, to include commercial construction as well. And this is House Bill 1362. And what 1362 does is it requires adoption of the 2021 International Energy Conservation Code, as well as what they're calling the Model Electric and Solar Ready Code. And that code has not yet been written, and that's one of the concerning pieces of this legislation, is that it adopts codes that are yet to be written. This code will be written by the Colorado Energy Office and will be required anytime you update a building code after July 1st, 2023. So what this kind of translates into, one, it's a loss of local control because we're transitioning the ceiling on these energy codes. There's always been minimum standards on the energy codes. Well, since at least 2019, there have been minimum standards on the energy codes at the state level, but this raises the bar higher than they've ever been raised before. And the cost comparison, the International Code Council writes these codes every 3 years. So we have the 21, we have the 18, and we have the 15. Right now, we're on the 2015 International Energy Conservation Code with some amendments to make it a little more friendly. When we compare the 2018 International Energy Conservation Code to the 2021, the cost impact is between $8,700 and $12,000 a home. And that's for a 2,500 square foot home, so it's a relatively small house. That also doesn't include the yet to be written codes. So we fought this legislation, we fought it very hard. We testified at the House hearings and at the Senate hearings. As of today, the bill was through the Senate and back to the House for a third reading. So we'll see if it makes it through, but as this was one of the governor's top priorities, I do anticipate this bill going through. So what does that mean to us right now? What that means right now is we are on a tight timeline. And if we can adopt an energy code locally prior to July 1st of 2023, then we retain some local control. And we feel that we can do so in a manner that it will still increase costs. There's no way around that, but that we can kind of soften the blow of those increased costs. So that's what we will be working on, and we will be bringing forward a code to the City of Fountain, as well as our other member jurisdictions, in anticipation of adoption prior to that July 1st, 2023 date. If we miss that date, then we get the codes that the state gives us. So that's my priority, to try and fight that, to maintain the local control that we have and try to do what we can to at least keep some degree of affordability. So that's my summary. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have or attempt to answer.
What do you need us to help you with? Because I know I talked to Scott earlier about, being more than willing to write a letter expressing our concern to the loss of local control on this. That we have a great regional building department where we're already working together regionally for things that work for our area in the state. And as you've stated, that's very, very important. So what can we do? Is there anything we can do to help you immediately?
That's a great question, and thank you, Mayor. I think even if we were to back this conversation up and have this conversation earlier on, several weeks ago, I don't know that it would have mattered.
And that was kind of what I was hearing.
Yeah, we opposed it as strongly as we could. We did everything that we could, and there were a number of jurisdictions that did so. And this is just one of those situations where the people in the communities to the north of us feel that they know better and know what needs to happen for the entire state.
Well, and
It's
they have the
unfortunate.
right to do what's best for their entity. Is there any way, Troy, as a home rule community, that we can do something individually for ourselves? I mean,
I think it sounds like the best way to do it would be to preempt this and
Right.
kind of do our own in the region.
right, which we've already done.
If we can do that.
Trying to do, yeah.
If we can do our update prior to July 1st of
Okay.
'23, then the answer to that is yes. But we have to do it before that date.
So Scott, Todd, Troy, is that,
We would be working through, I mean, they are our building
Right.
code folks, right?
right, but I want to
And
make
so-
sure we're at the
Yep,
table
we will be
and doing what
working
we
with.
can.
Yeah, it'll be Pikes Peak Regional Building running that for all the organizations that are member organizations, and they will be bringing it back with us to bring it through our process, right?
Yes, and I'd like to clarify, we are already working on this, and we were
Okay.
working on adoption of the 21 codes prior to this occurring. We had a targeted adoption date, probably towards the third or fourth quarter of 2023. So now I don't have any plans for the summer.
Vacation in December, huh?
And Madam Mayor, I'd also just mention to everyone that this was one of the, so Fountain and Monument, we jointly work with a lobbyist.
Yes.
And our lobbyist lobbied in opposition to this as well with the sponsors and others up there,
And
actively.
I thought that was the case,
Yeah.
but I didn't want to
Yep,
say that
yep.
without.
That's-
so
that's okay.
You have already supported the
Right,
effort.
but I mean,
and
if there's
appreciate
anything
that.
else we can do, because I know I've stated this in council meetings before, I find it very frustrating when out of one side of our mouth, we're talking about affordable housing, but the other side of our mouth, we're adding $12,000 onto the cost of each house. And I find that there's like a disconnect somewhere.
Well, I agree 100%. And I guess one thing I didn't really convey very well is, and it's not that I personally don't believe in energy conservation. Conserving
yeah.
our natural resources is incredibly important, especially when we live in such a beautiful state that we do. But it needs to be done, especially when it comes to construction, in a responsible and logical manner. And some of these requirements, the minimum requirements have a payback, I'm sorry, at a minimum, the requirements have a payback of 30 years. Some of the individual requirements, when you break them out individually, are upwards of 240 years. So, I mean, we can all do the math on that.
Yeah, hopefully things will upgrade before that, right?
So the concern from an affordability standpoint is if you can't get in the house or the apartment, then savings on a utility bill is insignificant. So we need to be able to get people into houses, into apartments.
Well, I think I remember, I'm not sure if it was you or your partner, given a report at I happened to be on the county commissioners meeting that day online.
Oh.
And it said for the number of the certain electric plugs they were requiring, the GFI ones now, they can't even get them. So it could potentially even slow down, and for them to meet this requirement, it could slow down the whole building process.
These codes will not, and that's another great point, is these codes will not speed up the process. Right now, we're not just facing labor shortages, we're facing material shortages and supply chain issues across the board. And these codes will make that problem a little bit worse
Yeah.
as well.
Mr. Rick?
Yes, thank you for coming. Quick question.
Sure.
You had said earlier that when the codes come from the international organizations, we can make modifications to them based off of our needs. Are you saying that this House Bill 1362 will not be allowed to make any local adjustments?
And great question. I did gloss over that a little bit. After July 1st, 2023, we would have no choice but to enforce the 2021 International Energy Conservation Code. We could make amendments to it, but just like the Electrical and Plumbing Code, the only amendments we can make to those are more restrictive. We can't reduce the requirements of the code.
Okay.
And I don't have any desire or intention to make it any more difficult than it is.
Okay, thank you very much.
Councilmember Corey?
Can you take any legal contestment against this, either before or after? Have you looked into that?
I don't have my attorney here. It's a great question. I don't know what the legal aspects of this look like yet. It's gone through a number of amendments and a number of changes. I think that would probably be very difficult. That is something that I may ask our legal department to work towards or take a look at. But my focus is going to be on trying to meet that July 1st, 2023 deadline, because it's accelerating what we were trying to do anyway. And then, so with that said, if we can make that happen on June 30th, then we traditionally adopt our codes every 6 years. That will get us 6 years down the road. We don't know what will happen in 6 years. What I do know is that I'm sure the state will try again and have some additional legislation, and everything will change. So it's hard to predict what's going to happen that far out.
Probably not I don't know if there is a huge fiscal note for this too from the state, like how many full-time employees they think this is going to require to do all this?
Well, what I can tell you is that falls on the local jurisdiction, and that the cost of that enforcement will fall on Pikes Peak Regional Building. And my analysis anticipates that could cost our department upwards of $1.2 million a year. So that's also motivation to try and develop a code that reduces that cost as well. That money is for additional staff, up to 9 additional inspectors, and I believe 4 additional plan reviewers just for the energy code portion of it. And the frustrating part to me as a building official is my desire, my focus is life safety. I believe that the building officials should be involved in life safety and make sure people can use buildings safely. And when the focus becomes so great on the energy code portion of it, I'm afraid that we lose focus on the life safety aspect.
That's a great point. Thank you. And so, yeah, as I heard Councilmember Estes say, it becomes an unfunded mandate to us.
Yes, it does.
And the 1.2 million you said was basically employee costs?
Yes.
And those employees are county employees?
No, they're regional building
Okay.
employees.
Okay, so not county employees.
Right.
Because my mind was going to the other bill that's up in Denver right now, potentially going through though it's going to greatly affect counties.
It will have a significant impact on the cost of, that's my study, my analysis. I don't know what the statewide aspect of it is. I should mention, this is also really only one of several bills that has this impact. There was a Senate Bill 206 that deals with wildfire mitigation and grants, and I think that that's a great part of it, but it does also include some additional building code requirements, which and I don't know exactly what the status of that bill is, there's so much to follow, but that bill could also have a significant impact on the cost of construction as well.
Well, as of yesterday, they're done Wednesday, right? The pain is finally over Wednesday at midnight?
Wednesday at midnight.
Yeah, as of yesterday, they still had 135 bills that hadn't even had their first hearing, so they got a little bit of work to do in the next 48 hours, so.
Unfortunately, I'm confident they'll get this one. Sorry for the good news.
No, we had a great representative over here on the regional building. I know they'll be fighting for us tooth and toenail, so.
Yes.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, I had one, you had said that this would include electrical and plumbing that they haven't written yet?
Yes, it would include, what it is it's the model electric and solar ready code. So what the provisions of that code that they're trying to focus on is they're incentivizing all electric construction and penalizing what they call mixed fuel construction. So if you have a house, if you build a house that has gas in it, gas water heater, then you'll need to put a dedicated 220 volt receptacle at that gas water heater, because you might want to change to an electric water heater. Same thing at your gas furnace, same thing at your gas cooktop. Provisions to make the home solar ready so that you can add solar. And all of these things are offered by builders, but this would make them requirements.
But you also mentioned plumbing now, is that not part of it?
No, not directly. The energy code does include a number of plumbing requirements like
Really?
heat recovery, drain waste heat recovery. So pulling the heat out of the wastewater and using that to maintain temperature in the house.
We just did plumbing, what, about a year ago?
Yes,
So-
that was the plumbing code.
So that would still be okay, they wouldn't,
Correct.
yeah, that's what I was wondering to make, ours is good.
Yep, we're
All
good
right,
there.
that's all.
So these codes are for new builds
They're for new builds.
or remodels. My question, I guess, is, as we've seen in Superior and
The Marshall Fire.
the Marshall Fire, thank you. I've seen in those two towns that had dramatic, loss of housing up there. The one city that did adopt the new codes, every house that needs to be rebuilt is under the new, it's considered a new build. So
Correct.
if something like that were to happen, is that same thing's gonna happen here?
Correct. Yep. And that's one of the reasons that July 1st, 2023 date is already burned in my mind, to make sure that we do what we can before that date comes. Not just new builds, rebuilds of a house that burned, additions, garage conversions, that type of thing. Yeah, it's very broad, garage conversions, yes.
Okay. Well, if there's something that needs to be amended in about, the definition of a new build, as opposed to a rebuild, obviously when you rebuild, you want to bring it up to current safety codes, but you're not going to be insured necessarily for the extra 12 to upgoing costs that could cost you. So
And apologies, because I know y'all are very busy tonight, and I feel like I've taken more time
I
than
think this is
should
just a really important issue.
have. When our jurisdiction experienced the Waldo Canyon and Black Forest fire, that was very similar to what occurred up north with the Marshall Fire. What we did as a local jurisdiction, in cooperation with the cities and counties and everybody, is we found a way to allow those homeowners to rebuild their homes with, if they, as close to the original plans as possible. What we did is we got out of the way. Now, one of the things that to this day I'm very proud of is we had our first building permit issued for a rebuild on a house in the Waldo Canyon fire 2 weeks after the fire was declared contained. And I don't know that any permits have been issued for the Marshall Fire yet. One? Okay. Now I know. But we have a track record of dealing with those disasters locally and dealing with them well. And my goal is to continue to implement that.
Okay, thank you. Any last questions or comments? Thanks for coming. Oh, we do have somebody here.
Oh. And here's Greg Dingrando. Greg is our PIO.
Okay,
Sorry,
welcome.
if I could add just one thing. There will also be, as a part of this whole process, a very lengthy public hearing process. So you asked, Mayor, what can you guys do? And I think part of this is to kind of get you guys in the know that this is coming. Because the timeline has been shrunk a little bit, we might be, depending on how long the public hearing process lasts, we might be under some pretty strict time constraints in order to reach that date. So I think I would just say kind of be ready, and we look forward to working with you guys when that time comes.
Yeah. Yeah, please
for
keep
the
us
record.
apprised, and we are more than willing to host something down here. We got a couple buildings that can, or we maybe even get the school or something to help out, but we would love to have something down here. It gets a little frustrating to see everything so far up north, so please keep us down here. There's a lot of building getting ready to go on our border, so this is vital to us down here. So, and I know Scott will work with you to get something reserved down here.
Thank you. And for the record, Greg reminded me to say that, and I still forgot.
That's why it's good to tag team, right? Thank you very much. All right, and if you have any, if you're in the audience, you have any questions about it, Scott, just email him and he'll get you the right email. Thank you. All right, thank you for that presentations. On to item 4.2, Board and Commission and Committees. We have no appointments tonight. On to item 5, City Council Agenda Requests. City Council shall use this time to request any items for future consideration. And I'm going to start to my right tonight. So Councilmember Duncan, do you have any agenda requests?
I don't have any at this time.
Thank you. Councilmember Applegate?
No, I don't have any right now.
Mayor Pro Tem Estes?
Nothing tonight?
Okay. Councilmember Hinton?
Nothing tonight.
Councilmember Corey?
Nothing at this time.
And Councilmember Rick?
Nothing at this time, Madam Mayor.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, that brings us to citizens to be heard. Citizens may address the council on items that are not on the agenda. Council may not be able to provide an immediate answer, but will direct staff to follow up. Out of respect for the council and others in attendance, please limit your comments to 3 minutes or less. And I do have one card tonight from Travis Baker from VFW 6461. Thank you for coming in tonight.
Madam Mayor and Honorable Council, we have a lot of changes coming up with 6461. We have been in the community for 76 years. This is our 76-year anniversary. We have installation of new commanders and new officers this Sunday at 1400. All are invited. If you have a free couple minutes and come out, we'd love to see y'all there. There will be food provided after the ceremony is complete. We have, obviously, our steak night is the second Friday of every, so that's this Friday. And we do have, I know one of the council members is part of the museum committee, correct? Yes, ma'am. So we have quite a bit of memorabilia items that we might be offering for donation. Plaques, like all kinds of stuff. Like we just did Operation Spring Clean and cleaned up a bunch of stuff, identified a bunch of stuff that we just don't have the space to store it or display it. So my thought was we offer it to the museum. Not sure if that would be something that the museum would be interested in, but since we have been a part of the community for 76 years, I figured that would be a fairly fair offer to the museum.
The museum would be honored.
Yes, and what I would do is we'd put it all together and allow the museum staff or bring it into the museum for you guys to pick and choose what you would want to display and what just probably wouldn't fit. And then we would store that, the stuff, none of it's going to get thrown away. We'll find a place to store it. We don't throw away memorabilia. We don't. Subject to any questions or comments, that's all I
If you
have.
haven't been to their steak night, the steaks are huge and the potatoes are huge, and it is the best, one of the best meals you'll get, so, yep. So thank you so much. Thank you. Councilmember Hinton.
What time on Friday for the steak?
So the steak night, I recommend getting there around 5 o'clock, because we do a limited number of steaks and they sell out rather quickly. Because we just started steak night back up, and it's gaining ground. And so as it gains ground, we're adding and we're buying more steaks each week. So the steaks are currently being purchased by a member and donated. So we don't want to incur too much cost upon that person.
And how much is that? How much is-
$15, and that gets you steak, baked potato, a dessert, and green salad, and it's $15.
Perfect, thank you.
But if you bring in a 20, you tell them to keep the change. Yeah, because you can split it with 2 people easily. Yeah, it's a
Oh,
big
yeah, no,
steak.
yeah, the steaks are pretty darn big.
Yeah, it's not a steak, it's a,
Yeah.
yeah.
Speaking my language on that one.
All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And congratulations on everybody who's going to be promoted on Sunday.
Thank you.
And hopefully be there.
I hope
right.
to see y'all there.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Oh, I'm sorry. Councilmember Duncan.
I just wanted to say thank you for your service to the community. My husband joined a couple of months ago.
Oh, wow.
So you'll be seeing us there quite often. But
Awesome.
again, thank you for your service to the community. And you have a lot of other
lot of
things
events.
that's going on there. So, there's a lot to do that'll keep you busy all week.
We are out of the 5 VFWs in Colorado Springs, we are the most active. We have something going on every day of the week. Right now, our Tuesdays, not so much because we're changing Tuesdays. We have bingo Mondays and Wednesdays. We have karaoke and dinner nights. Every Friday night's a dinner. The second Friday of every month is our steak night, and then every other night is a different type of dinner. But we have something going on every day of the week.
Yeah, and your breakfast on Sundays too, right?
Breakfast on Sundays, yep. We just had a breakfast brunch, a Mother's Day brunch.
I'm
Huge
just
turnout.
promoting you blatantly from up there.
Huge turnout. We made just shy of $700 for that one. And that all
Nice.
goes back to the post. That's actually going to go to our building fund to repair building repairs because it is an old building. But no, yeah, we have something, like I said, every day of the week.
All right.
Yeah, and they can check out your social media page to keep up with you guys.
Yes, and we just hired somebody to do our .org page because it is outdated and needs a lot of work. That's one of my priorities when I take command on Sunday.
All right. Well, congratulations again.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Huh?
All right. Is there any other citizens in? Come on up, Mr. Is it Mr. Racine, as you're coming up to citizens to be heard time?
Yes, ma'am. I'm coming as a city employee, council mayor. I just wanted to touch base with you guys today and let you know the collaboration with our neighborhood services and our police department over the past 3 or 4 months. The professionalism that neighborhood services comes with now is exceptional. We started our a monthly homeless outreach type directed patrol that we did, which was very successful. There were no parties that ended up being located that were homeless or transient. As it becomes summertime, we'll get more people moving through the city, either to Colorado Springs or Pueblo, but typically don't call Fountain their home. And I just wanted to reiterate the professionalism that Tish and Tyrone bring to the table with the collaboration with the police department is something that I haven't seen in almost 11 years of me being here. Okay.
Thank you very much. That's great to hear.
Good job.
Thank you. Citizen Racine, huh? Anybody else in the audience? All right, seeing none, we will move on to item 7, consent agenda. All items listed under the consent agenda are considered to be routine and will be approved with one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or citizen so requests, in which case the item may be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately at the discretion of council. We have one huge item on our consent agenda tonight. I'm sorry, we haven't made a motion yet, and the voting thing is still up, so would someone, Councilmember Applegate, would you like to make a motion?
Yes. Make a motion to approve consent agenda A as is.
Councilmember Estes?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for consent agenda. Is there any discussion? If not, please vote.
Seven yes, motion carried.
Can we read that again, please?
Rick
I
voted against the
apologize.
minutes.
6 yes, 1 no. And I gotta check. Councilmember Rick voting no, motion carried.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, and we have item 8, old business, and there is no old business on the agenda, so that takes us into item 9. Item 9A, consideration of items removed from the consent agenda. There are no items removed from the consent agenda, so we're on to item 9B. I am opening a public hearing for liquor special event permit for American Legion Post 38. Ms. Huffman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and City Council. The American Legion Post 38 is applying for a special event liquor license for their annual fundraising event. On special event applications that are submitted to the state, you are allowed to submit multiple dates. Post 38 is submitting for July 2nd, July 16th, September 17th, October 29th, and December 10th. This public hearing has been posted on the property and in the newspaper. We do have Mr. Andy Colby in the audience if you have any questions in this public hearing.
Mr. Colby, come on down. How are you today?
Fantastic, how are you?
Great, thank you for coming in. Did you want to tell us anything about your event?
Well, there's actually several events that we do. This year, we actually have 5 of them planned. Normally, every year when we submit it, it's usually 1 or 2. We're doing a couple more this year, get folks out of the mode of COVID and coming to the post and enjoying their time. But these events that we're doing, and she said the dates, and some of them slipped my mind. One of them is specific to the 4th of July, where we have a big party for the kids in a bounce house and stuff, but we extend the barriers out so that we can enjoy the whole area and not just the inside of the post. And the 16th is our annual 38 special, where there's probably 300 bikes coming through town and stopping at the post, so we have a lot of event fun there as well. And the other ones are just add-ons for our end-of-year party, and then a children's Christmas party. It sounds kind of weird that we want a special event for that, but it does allow us to get out of and have some burn pits in the back with the fake fire and stuff, and kids love it. But anyway, it allows the parents to get out there and have a good time as well, and not be confined to the in spaces of the post. So that's what we submit. We have submitted every year, and I'm actually kind of honored. This is the first time I've ever actually got to say anything.
Well, I'm glad you said something, because you said burn pit, and our fire marshal got a funny look on his face before you said fake fire.
Oh, no, we don't actually have real fires. We have a fake fire, and one of them's for the Halloween party, and so we have this thing, and it has an air blower and the fires and all that. We just don't put that in the post, so.
Fun, yeah. All righty. Are there any comments or questions? This is a public hearing, so are there any comments or questions from the public or any council members? All right, seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing. And what would council like to do? Councilmember Estes.
I move to approve the special event permit liquor license applications for American Legion Post 38.
Councilmember Hinton.
I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on approving the public hearing to consider the request for application of a special events liquor permit for the American Legion Post 38. Is there any further discussion from council? Seeing none, please vote.
7 yes, motion carried.
Thank you. That takes us on to item 9C. I am opening a public hearing to consider the request of a report of changes for Baldwin Cone Liquor Group LLC DBA Clicks Wine and Spirits for a change of location. Ms. Huffman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and City Council. As you may recall, at the April 12th meeting, this item did come before City Council, and typically there is a needs survey that's done for a quarter-mile radius on a new location for a liquor license. This, however, did fit the description within that time, or within the area, that it's not necessarily required should council waive it. So they are here tonight for the request of the report of changes for this location. And I do have, I believe, Mr. Brent Baldwin or Vince Linden in the audience, if there are any questions.
All right, come on down, please. Thank you so much for being here tonight. Really appreciate it. Is there anything you'd like to tell us about your business?
Thank you for having us. For the record, my name is Vince Linden. I'm an attorney. Present at the podium with me is Brent Baldwin, who is a member of Baldwin Cone Liquor Group, DBA Clicks Wine and Spirits. And I'll let Mr. Baldwin speak, but as your city clerk indicated, it's for a short move across the parking lot. You were generous and kind in waiving the neighborhood needs and desires analysis, given that the liquor store has been at its current location for approximately 10 years, and it's just a short request to move across the parking lot. Mr. Baldwin?
Yeah, we're doing a multi-tenant building in the, I think one of the final plots at Safeway, just to the left of Safeway. Our building is going up currently. It's 11,000 square feet. Liquor store will occupy approximately 6,000 square feet of that. And then we're bringing a pet pantry, and we're talking to a couple other tenants now for the last space that we have available. We're excited to be part of the community. Part of the liquor store, I've been in the industry almost 20 years, and have a great track record for running a good store and not selling to minors, and bringing that sense of community to a store with like wine tastings and beer events, and supporting, you know, the VFW and American Legion and some of the things that they do as well. So we're excited to be down here.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. And I appreciate your staying in town. That's really great. Thank you so much. And congratulations on expanding.
Thanks.
So, yeah, hopefully you get that open really soon. You have a move-in date?
September 1st, by or before September 1st.
Okay. All right. That sounds great. All righty. So this is a public hearing. Are there any comments or questions from anyone in the public? Any, oh, I'm sorry. I've got to remember to switch back to delegates over here. Councilmember Duncan?
I'm just looking forward to having you in our community.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Right across the street.
All right, thank you. Seeing no further comments, I'm going to close the public hearing. And what would council like to do? Councilmember Rick?
Move to approve the request of a report of changes for Baldwin Cohen Liquor Group, LLC, doing business as Clicks Wine and Spirits for a change of location.
Councilmember Duncan?
I second.
Okay, is there any further discussion from council? Seeing none, the motion on the floor is to consider the request for a change of location from Baldwin Cone Liquor Group. Please vote.
7 yes, motion carried.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
And
so
good luck
much.
getting open. All right, we are on to item 9D, discussion related to the current Chapter 5.16 of the Fountain Municipal Code. Mr. Racine, I'm hesitating because I'm not sure if it's officer or lieutenant or sergeant or
Officer's
chief.
fine.
I mean, I don't know where we should go with this. Chief.
Good evening again. I appreciate this. We did put this down for 20 minutes. Hopefully, we do not go that long. I'm going to try to go over this as quickly as possible. It is in regards to the massage parlor ordinance that we do have for the regulation and the enforcement and the licensing the city has had since the year 2000. So we were way above the curve rather than other jurisdictions. Unfortunately, as you guys have heard, Colorado Springs is actually voting tonight to see if theirs is going to pass. They have not had anything in place ever, and that is why they've been dealing with the issues that they have been dealing with illicit massage parlors. And the big fear on that is when a neighboring jurisdiction tightens the regulation of certain types of businesses that may not be what our city wants, the fear is that they're going to trickle down. And that's when, that was brought to my attention that was a possible fear. And that's when we went ahead and pulled the ordinance, familiarized myself with it. And in the years that I've been doing the regulatory on the police side of it, we've only had one that has looked to open up here. And after reading what the requirements were, they weren't on the up and up, and they failed to even file an application. So everybody should have the Chapter 5 in front of them. And I just went ahead and I highlighted a few things that make our ordinance strong, that make our ordinance where really nothing needs to be changed. I will be working with the city attorney on updating some language. As to, in here, it says the police department will fingerprint. Back in 2019, that changed, and CBI requires all licensing for teachers, nurses, education, things of that nature, background checks, has to go through the CBI vendor, and local police departments can't do that. Okay. So if we'd like to go ahead and go to the second page. And on that, massage parlor means an establishment providing massage but does not include the following. This is also what it reads in the Colorado Springs ordinance that they're attempting to pass. Again, it looks like they mirrored their ordinance off of ours, a lot of it, which is a good thing. And one of the big things where the illicit massage parlors failed throughout the state is what our requirement is that a massage therapist in our chapter is defined as a person who has graduated from a massage therapy school accredited by the State Educational Board. That is the big one. And the illicit parlors obviously weren't running that type of organization. Third page, I've highlighted the nudity or state of nudity. We've already outlined that. Again, that is what Colorado Springs is trying to accomplish in theirs. And that governs all massage parlors. And then section 5.16050, it's unlawful for any person to operate a massage parlor within the city unless that person has first obtained a massage parlor license from the city. So that gives us a little more teeth than an individual who is applied for a business license. In the city, it is my understanding that they can operate for a certain amount of time while they're waiting for that license to be approved. This does not apply to massage parlors. So we have that teeth day one, that we can begin the regulatory infractions on those individuals. If you would like to jump the next page, 516 on the bottom there. E, that a public hearing shall be heard if any massage parlor would like to be opened. Again, not a lot of cities and municipal codes have that throughout the state upon my research. That it is an approval of a city business license. There is no public hearing, there is no posting, there is no other ramifications that the individual has to go through for the public to have a voice or a comment. It is just a standard business license. Okay, go open up whatever you need to. This one is very important, I think, at least with our police department, with the size we are. I understand Colorado Springs Police Department, they have the Metro VNI that does a lot of their regulatory. And I'm here to say, I think Fountain Police Department does a considerable better job on regulatory with our alcohol, our tobacco, and anything else that falls underneath of that than Colorado Springs does. And on the top of 616 letter B, the investigation conducted by the city police department is sufficient to verify the accuracy of all information from the applicants, from the owners, from anybody who's holding more than 10%, a silent partner, that type of thing. The police department is required to do the background investigation rather than just a fingerprint card submitted, because there's a lot of other things that can fly under the radar that a simple $25 background is not going to catch. And if we go to the section 516120 on 8 of 16, the location of massage parlors, this is pretty tight. If you think about Fountain and where everything is located, the places of worship, a school or child care facility is defined as Title 17, and that also falls under property that is owned by a school district or any type of educational institution. Public park, and the property line that's devoted to residential use, and the definitions. So it's pretty strict, and there may be only one or two places within the city that they would even fall under the parameters to be able to open up.
How is that 750 feet measured? I think we found out sometimes it's rather eye-opening how it's measured.
750 feet is, for what I could tell in this, is going to be as the crows flies straight line, property line to property line. Yeah, because, I mean, that's going to be the a straight line is going to circle all the way around. And I don't know where there's almost 1,000 feet in the city where it's not within a park, residential, or school district-owned type properties. Because we also do have things to where, like the Goal Academies and things like that, they're educational institutions that are sanctioned by the state, and they're in our strip malls. Again, on the top of 1016, this is the identification cards. We kind of led that. I have not seen that outside of any place with a municipality in California, to where the city issues identification cards to the actual workers of the establishment. And that is kind of a regulation like the Division of Gaming has, that you see everybody that works at a casino up in Cripple Creek, Blackhawk, Central City. They have ID cards with their picture on it and also what their job is, because they have to go through background investigations by the Colorado Bureau of Investigations and State Gaming before they're allowed to even work within the casinos. And again, it says there in C, fingerprinted by the police department. That is just some verbiage. I think that possibly needs to be cleaned up just a little bit to bring it into 2022. On the middle of 1316, persons prohibited as licensees. This comes into where it is a corporation, any of whose officers, directors, or stakeholders holding 10% or more of the stock, therefore are not of good moral character. That could be subject to a public hearing and a vote by council. Any partnership, association, or limited liability company whose officers or any members holding 10% or more of not good moral character or a reputation unsatisfactorily to the licensing authority. Any person employed, assisted by, or financed. And then also any person who is a sheriff, deputy sheriff, police officer, prosecuting officer, or any licensing authority, inspector, or employees. And that is also the same as individuals who are sworn law enforcement and prosecutors. They can also not be owners of a bar, working owner of a bar, a liquor store, things like that. Anything where there's regulation, there's potential for corruption, there's potential for being allowed to operate because of their status and who they know. That's also been taken out, so we wouldn't have those issues as well. And then the big one, and this is what the city of Colorado Springs was talking about, because a lot of places got nervous, like the Veda Salons and Cheyenne Mountain Spa, that type of thing, is the exemptions. And I think these are appropriate because these are technically, they provide massage therapy, but they're not a massage parlor. That is not their main course of business and what they do. That is going to be all your physicians, your registered nurses, anyone who's state licensed, again, to perform these, hospitals, clinics, also your massage educational institutions. So if you do have a school that teaches massage therapy, aromatherapy, that type of thing, that is licensed, then they would be allowed to operate outside the parameters of this. Because then all these institutions and all the people that they're talking about within here fall under state regulatory. So municipalities don't need to tighten those. They're pretty heavily regulated as it is. Is there any questions you have for me?
Councilmember Estes and then Councilmember Duncan. Yeah.
Just out of curiosity, are there any massage parlors in Fountain?
No.
Okay.
None that are legal and none that I'm aware of that are illicit. Don't want to say definite no. None that I'm aware of at this time.
Councilmember Duncan.
Well, massages are a good thing, when they're, for your health. But I've been following the information on the news with Colorado Springs, and I've seen here hours of operation, 12 midnight to 6 a.m. They can be open if they were here.
Correct.
But can we say, is it in here about, I know they've been having some issues with the owners living on the property as their primary residence?
So Colorado Springs' ordinance, which is proposed this evening, is they are not allowed to operate from 11 p.m. till 5 a.m. So ours is just an hour off from that. Our ordinance also, along with Colorado Springs, allows for inspection of the premises, the entire premises, all attached areas at any time during regular business hours or when they appear to be open for business. I think that, like I stated earlier, working with our code enforcement, since we are working so well together at this point with our directed investigation team there at the police department, that would be something that if somebody is living in a place that is zoned for business operation only, that we would work police and code enforcement together and we would tackle that the best we could.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Rick?
Thank you for coming in and presenting. That was very informative. The question I have, in today's society, we've got a lot of independent contractors, independent business people who, instead of setting up a parlor and having you come to them, they advertise their services and they go to your house. Do we have anything that license or regulates an independent massage therapist who is advertising and going around to individual houses?
So it's extremely hard to regulate that because the individual is offering a service that is no different than getting on Craigslist and saying, I want to mow lawns.
Okay.
Where that comes in is that is an individual that is doing this for themselves,
Okay.
and they're thinking independently, hopefully. Where the massage parlor regulation really comes in, on the backside of it is going to be the human trafficking and the keeping a place of prostitution. That's why a lot of these places that are illicit don't want to fall under all these regulations. But if an individual is offering their services to go to your house in Springs or Pueblo or anywhere else to do any type of work, house cleaning, things like that, there's really no regulation that you can do. Unfortunately, that's just somebody that's being an entrepreneur by themselves.
Okay.
Now, if something comes of that because of their actions or how they operate, and that's later found out, then obviously there's a criminal side of it. But this really locks down more of the human trafficking or the pimping and the patronization of prostitutes.
Okay. While I don't have a problem with somebody being an independent business person, I do feel they should have a business license to operate in the city of Fountain. If we don't have that in our system, I think it may be something we want to look at.
Absolutely, and that goes for a lot of things, not just actually massages, but that can go for any type of work. That could be somebody who's stating they are
Auto glass installer.
Auto glass installer, IT help, anything like that. But you would have to look at wherever they go is where they make the money, and they must pay the taxes on the city of where they do the services. But that's extremely hard to regulate.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Duncan?
I just wanted to say to Council Rick that sometimes when they're in school, they have to do so many hours in practice. They have to practice on. So sometimes, because I have relatives that are going to school for physical therapy or whatever, and that's what they do. They carry their equipment with them and they go out to people's homes and do certain things. So.
In a big one that would, I think, negatively hurt, but shouldn't be overlooked, would be cosmetology. That's a huge one where they have to do so many hours to be able to get their certifications. But again, I think that falls under the students of the schools and things like that.
They would have some type of ID that they're a student. And
They would have some type of documentation,
Yeah.
but
And
again.
that's where it falls to us as consumers to, when someone drives up to your house and says, oh, I've got a little bit of asphalt left over from a job I did up the road.
Exactly, yes.
You say, do you have a business license in the city of Fountain? And they disappear really, really fast. And especially if you say, well, let me check on that with Sylvia, they kick up dust getting out of your
Yes, ma'am.
driveway. So, yeah. And I appreciate this because I think it is an important issue and with the human trafficking that we see going on in so many areas, and
again,
yeah.
it's one of those we don't want when something's illicit and the reins are pulled tight on it. We don't want it to trickle down to other jurisdictions, but we're actually ahead of the game on it.
Yeah, and if you're legit, then welcome and come give your massages, and we don't want to discourage that from going on either.
Correct.
So, yeah. All right, so this was just a discussion item tonight. We're not taking a vote on anything.
Correct.
Is there any discussion or questions from anybody in the audience? Okay. Any other questions from the council members? No? All right.
Okay.
Thank you very much for
Thank you,
coming in
ma'am.
tonight. That takes us on to item 9E, Resolution 22-022, a resolution authorizing Schmidt Construction to provide professional road maintenance on 4 projects throughout the city. Mr. McDonald.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, City Council. I'm here before you tonight to talk about a resolution that would authorize Schmidt Construction to provide paving services, professional road services for this calendar year. We've got 4 projects right now that are primary for them. Fortman Avenue from Fountain Mesa to the end of the street, end of the road. Autumn Place from Fountain Mesa to Stubblefield. Crest Drive, which is on the southern side of the city, from Crest Street to the end of maintenance around the curve. And then on Windsor Lane from Crest Drive to the end. So those are the 4 primaries right now. We have another roadway that we're looking at, probably putting on the consent agenda for the next city council, and that would be for Fountain Mesa on the north side where El Paso County is doing the circle up there by Fortman. They are doing some work for the city, so they are actually extending their project into city right-of-way, city of Fountain right-of-way, which is great. They're going to repave some of that. What we'd like to do is, based on them being on scene, saving the mobilization fees that we would. I've got contractors working on extending the curb and gutter from their end of work into the city down to Highway 16, so it would fix all that broken curb and gutter that really is non-existent. It's rolled asphalt right now that is broken apart. And then we would repair that roadway all the way down to Highway 16 to CDOT right away. So that's coming up. I've got bids in on that. We're just finalizing some numbers right now on some work, so you should be seeing a consent item for that. And we do have funding set aside for all that right now. And we're hoping in the summertime, if we get some other funding that may come in, we'll take a look and see what else we can do. But for tonight, this is what I'm looking at right now.
All right. Councilmember Rick?
Thank you, sir. Did the roadway focus group get to look at these projects, and have they approved these as a priority?
Correct. Yeah, we looked at these earlier in the year, and actually late last year. These were the roadways that were brought to their attention, and they agreed that these are what we should be working on right now.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
Councilmember Applegate?
Oh, that's me. Oh, me.
Oh, sorry.
This one.
Thank you. Councilmember
The
Corey,
other
I
one.
apologize.
The commission dates set on these 4 projects, are these hard dates for the contractor?
No, we don't have any hard dates on start of construction right now. I'm working on, we'll get the contract signed tonight, hopefully. Then I'll start scheduling with Schmidt. We are actually hoping, based on the prices that we received this year, there's only one oil supplier in the entire country right now, which is Suncor, that produces oil for asphalt paving. And of course, because they are the only ones that are left, their prices are sky high right now, and those prices are reflected in these bids. Unfortunately, they're a lot higher than we've seen in the past. They're almost 20 to 25% higher than we paid last year. So we are actually kind of in a waiting game. We are hoping that, and everybody that I have talked to, we are hoping these prices are going to moderate come June, July timeframe. So I don't want to say do it right now, because if we do see a savings, and Schmidt does recognize that savings in their oil prices, we will of course benefit from that savings. So we're looking right now at just hoping to get these done before school starts is what my goal is.
Okay, right, but like when they start the project, like their end dates, are their end dates going to be, are they going to set hard dates on those?
End dates on when they will finish
When they'll
construction?
finish, yeah, when they'll finish the project, like, do you have a time frame in mind, and then be like, please be done by this date? you know?
Absolutely, August. It's usually the second week in August before school starts is what we shoot for.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Good.
Yep.
Councilmember Duncan?
Hi, I'm no expert on this at all, so if my questions seem, off, then Are they laying asphalt on top of asphalt?
We'll be milling. We won't be milling all the way down to dirt. It depends on the project. So the majority of the project is what we call a mill and overlay. So we'll be milling off at least 2 inches of current asphalt, depending on the depth of the asphalt of the roadway. Sometimes, I mean, the majority of our roadways, unfortunately in Fountain, there's no rhyme or reason to how they were built. I've got some roadways that have got 14 inches of asphalt on them and some that have got 1.5 inches. Down in the Little Ranches area, there's about 1 inch of asphalt. So if I milled there, I'd be down to dirt. But most of the roadways that we're looking here, based on the core samples and the drillings that I've taken, we won't be going all the way down. We will end up what you call putting asphalt over top of existing asphalt. One of the things that I specify in most of the projects that we do, unless it's a small residential collector type road that sees a smaller amount of traffic, is I specify what we call Kevlar reinforced asphalt. So they actually mix an aramid fiber into the asphalt, which helps bind it together and resist some of that cracking. So any larger roadway, we specify that, which helps prevent some of that cracking that will eventually always come back to the surface unless we totally rebuild the roadway.
Okay. And so what type of time frame would you say that this road would last?
It's hard to say. It always depends on what's underneath the current roadway. You know, if we look at roadways like Cross Creek, Heritage, some of those problem areas that are definitely a thorn in all our sides because of the lack of funding to fix them right now. A roadway that is built correctly from the start, that has a proper subgrade, it has a proper base, and then a proper asphalt mat put down, is really scheduled to last you at least 40 years. Now that is dependent on a lot of things. That doesn't mean that you can't touch that road. 40 years later, it should be good. There's a lot of preventative maintenance. That really hasn't happened a lot in the city. We're working on a lot. I'm spending a lot more money on things like crack seal, chip seal, that we haven't done in the past, and other type of methods that will help preserve that roadway and try to get it to that 40-year mark. So there's a lot of variables that really say how long is a road going to last. A lot of that is based on the preventative maintenance that was done. The roads that I am specifying and I'm working on currently are roadways that would benefit, of course, from that mill and overlay. They are past the point of what we call a preservation, now that we have to take some of the roadway off to rebuild that roadway and give it structure again. So, you know, I'm hoping as long as we can come up with the funding to do the preservation that we need after we repave these roadways, we should get hopefully another 20 or 30 years out of them. If we continue to do the proper preservation.
Well, sounds good. Well, since you mentioned Cross Creek, I hope it's moving up on the spectrum.
Unfortunately, it's not.
You don't like your ride? Councilmember Applegate, is that correct this time?
Yes.
You were talking about you know, wait a little while in hopes that it would go, the price of the oil go down, and aren't you afraid that that oil could go up some more?
We don't think so. I mean,
Really?
and I'm on the phone with all the major asphalt producers on a regular basis right now, and we're talking about this start. We don't see, we're locked into these prices, so we're not going to see an increase.
Okay.
So Schmidt cannot raise the prices of their asphalt more than what they've already bid to us. So we're solid now. All we can do is see a saving, hopefully, in the near future.
Got it. Thank you.
Councilmember Rick?
Just wanted to say that I observed your crews. They were out by my house on Marshall and Barnell. Did a
Yep.
great job out there and wanted to say thanks.
You bet. Yeah, we did about 50 tons of asphalt out there today. So yeah,
thank you.
A lot of hard work. Thank you.
I did have one question on the Fortman piece of it. I assume that will be done after they're done tearing all that up, so
Correct.
we're not,
Yeah,
it's not
we're
getting destroyed
working
by
with
the-
Kiewit right now to establish a solid start point and stop point for their construction and our construction. So we are working closely to make sure that occurs properly.
And so since you're speaking with them, what is the timeline for that project to be done? Because I know they were aiming before school, and that's a county project, right? The roundabout's a county project.
It is. Yes, it is.
We're going to stress
For-
that every
for
time
the
we talk
record.
about it. So are they trying to
We
be
are-
done about the same time?
We are actually looking at putting asphalt down on Fountain Mesa. My time frame right now, I've spoken to them today, is the middle of June. So they are hoping to get asphalt the second or third week in June down on that entire project.
Oh, so the whole roundabout would be done?
We're hoping, yeah,
Hopefully
by
end
the
of
end of
June?
June.
Okay, wow, okay, great. Councilmember Duncan?
I would be remiss if I didn't say this, because Scott showed me how to use the app to identify holes that are in the street. And so, and I could be stopping everywhere I go, but I don't. But I just want to say a shout out to your crew. Gordon Rick helped me to remember that, is that when that was put into the app, within 24 hours on Hurley, they fixed a major hole that's been there forever, but they fixed it within 24 hours. So I just want to say thank you, and your crew is doing a great job.
We appreciate it. That's all I have. Any other questions for me?
And Katie, any questions from anyone in the audience? All righty. And if there's no further questions or discussion from council, what would council like to do? Councilmember Hinton?
I recommend approval of Resolution 22-022 to approve the 22 pavement resurfacing project to Smith Construction.
Councilmember Applegate?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on resolution number 22-022. Is there any further discussion from council? Okay, seeing none, please vote.
7 yes, motion carried.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay, that takes us on to item 9EF. First reading of ordinance 1776, an ordinance adding a new chapter 3.17 entitled Transportation Impact Fees to the Fountain Municipal Code. And this says Brandy Williams and Troy Johnson. Looks like we just got one of
Yeah,
you.
we flipped a coin, I guess.
Okay.
Evening, Mayor and Council. This is an exciting, kind of the culmination of a lot of hard work is the ordinance that you see in front of you. And so I'm kind of excited to present it to you this evening. But also with that said, I think this is a big ordinance, a big change in kind of historically how we've done things in the city of Fountain as well. So it's also not to kind of be taken lightly. That hard work began, I don't know, probably almost 2 years ago now, when Wilson and Company began helping the city of Fountain with and developing a master transportation plan, or transportation master plan, I should say. And kind of around that time, the city adopted an interim traffic impact fee while they were going through that study. And so we've had this, what we've been calling an interim fee, and it's been, and you all have extended it, I think, 3 different times, because it's so important that we want to get it exactly right. And as a part of that transportation master plan that you all approved earlier this year, they gave us a study to evaluate what that traffic impact fee should be. And that's what you have before you tonight. And the idea is that that with the growth and the changes that we're all experiencing in the city, new development and redevelopment will require new infrastructure. And so that development should pay its own way, and that's the phrase that we've said. And so when we established the interim fee, we kind of looked to the region and our neighbors, particularly the county, and we established a fee that's consistent with them. But we wanted to really evaluate our needs in our community, and so that's what the traffic impact fee study that you have attached to this ordinance, you have that, and that's what Wilson and Company did for us, is evaluate the needs, really the future needs based upon projected growth that we will have, and what the infrastructure will be needed, and the costs of that. And then doing their calculations on that, and then how does that transition and translate to a fee, and that's basically the information that you have in front of you is that study. And so what we're really talking about is when somebody comes in and applies for a building permit, for a new build, for a change in use, that they'll have to pay this fee. And the idea is when you come in and if you're adding traffic to the roads, then you're gonna have to pay for that impact to those roads. So not necessarily a remodel, but as a condition of getting a new building permit. And so that's what you've got in front of you, and you've got, depending on the types of use, you can see that chart in there. Depending on the type of use, there's different calculations for the impacts. And so what I will say is, what kind of logistically, you've got the ordinance, and that'll take 2 readings, and so inside of the ordinance doesn't set the fee itself. It just establishes the city's authority to administer the fee. And then what's attached to that ordinance is a proposed resolution to set the fee, because obviously that's the big question, is how much. And that resolution can help answer that question, but it's a little premature because we don't have the authority yet because the ordinance hasn't been passed. And so kind of the order of operations for the dominoes to fall would be approving it, tonight's ordinance on first reading, and then next meeting come back on second reading, and then we could have that resolutions as it's proposed after that to be able to set that fee that you had just passed. So if everything goes and you want to vote that way, that's kind of the order that it would go. And then one thing that I did want to mention too, and kind of highlight, is the section in that ordinance about access to city streets. And we've been dealing with this a little bit in different areas of the city, but with how we are situated and located, there are situations where somebody outside the city wants to access our city roads, but would not necessarily fall under these codes because they wouldn't be in the city limits. What this is saying and what this requires is anybody outside the city looking to access our city streets has to enter into an agreement with us to pay the equivalent amount of fees before we can give them access to give them an access permit to drive onto our city streets from their property. So with that, I will leave it and open it up to questions. And Brandy's here and Christie's here. We've done, that's been the core team along with Wilson and Companies to get this on. So if any technical questions, they can probably answer better than I can.
Okay, Councilmember Rick?
Thank you, sir. On page 5 of the ordinance, it says on item C, the fees described in this chapter shall not apply to remodeling of existing structures, providing such remodeling does not create additional dwelling units, new square footage on non-residential units, or will not generate an increase in traffic. So if it's an ADU, or if it's additional square footage on a non-residential unit, the fee applies. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. In the resolution, the draft resolution for the fee, there's the fee for building a new house and the fee for the additional dwelling unit appears to be the same amount, which is $3,600. Is that what I'm reading correctly, or did I miss something?
Let me pull it up.
She's got the answer if you ask her.
Oh, she does? Yeah. Oh.
Yes, you would be correct. If there was an additional dwelling unit constructed, they would be subject to the 3,600 square foot or $3,600 fee for a new single-family residence because it would be causing the same generated impact. Same within a non-residential, if there was additional square footage added to a structure, they would pay that square footage amount, not for the entire structure.
Okay. Thank you for answering that. And then the second question I had, how much did we have to pay for the study to be done?
That's a good question. You remember?
It was included in the total that we paid for the TMP, so it was included in that fund, but the total of that was 220,000.
220,000. Okay, thank you.
That was for the whole traffic master plan, though, that amount, not just the study.
Oh, wow.
Councilmember Applegate?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that the whole package here was done really well. And I thought a lot of their cross-referencing was excellent, so you could go back and look at cities and see where they're at on the map. I thought this was very well done. And I'd like to just say it was money well spent.
Yeah, and it gives us a lot of confidence in their conclusions too.
And legally, we cannot implement a traffic impact fee without that study being done. So you have to have one for it to be able to implement one.
Mr. Applegate, did you have a further question? Okay. Yeah, and that's a really, really good point. I appreciate you bringing that up. I do have a question on page 6, item 1D, when it talks about the credit, if it hasn't been used in 5 years, that it lapses. So they would receive a credit in return for other things they would do, maybe outside, right? But, so in lieu of paying the fees, is that correct? The credit is in lieu of paying the fees? So if the credit lapses because they haven't used it, they haven't done they haven't fulfilled their responsibility for what they were supposed to build, what happens then?
No, so.
Or am I misunderstanding
Yes,
it?
you can answer better. Go ahead.
Madam Mayor, members of council, how that works is we have an example right now. Aspen Ranch is coming in. We're partnering with them to build a portion of Link Road. And they will get credits, meaning when they go to get their building permits, they will just kind of draw off of the amount of that improvement. If for any reason Aspen Ranch doesn't get to the point that they're pulling building permits, that credit will sit there. And if they don't build anything for 5 years, then it would expire. So generally, you build all of those offsite improvements first, and the last thing you're doing is pulling building permits. So sadly, we had it happen in the late 2000s. We had a lot of projects. Aspen Ranch was one of them. They installed a lot of improvements. They didn't get to building roads, and then they were still there, and we've been dealing with them right now. So there's a lot of upfront infrastructure that happens. We're all subject to the economy. Something could happen with the economy. They don't build for 5 years, and then those credits would expire.
Are the credits renewable one time at all if for some reason they don't get that done, or are they just out of luck?
We wrote it so they're just out of luck, but I have no doubt that they would come before you to have that conversation if that came to pass.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, does anybody else have any questions on the ordinance part of it? Okay. Are we asking questions on anything to do on the impact fee study, or is anybody going to do a report on that, or any, no?
No, I was not planning on it, other than putting it in the packet.
Okay. I do have a couple of questions on it.
Okay, that's great.
And they might be Brandy-type questions, I don't know, or because they're not legal. On page 33 of Table 14, when it talks about the allocations and calculations on how you came up with different fees, at some points, there's a big difference between the right-of-way acreage that's required and the right-of-way allocated in the TIF. How do you plan on funding the differences in those allocations of spaces? Oh, no, sorry.
Yeah.
Todd's looking at me like, Todd's looking at me pretty blank on that one.
Obviously, we're going to have to take these as they come. So I don't know that there's an overall plan to say this one's going to have money coming from here, this one's going to have money coming from there. Our hope would be, and we know that you guys are working on this, that a lot of those pieces, if we ever eventually join PPRTA, would help to bridge that gap. So it's a combination of the fee, PPRTA, getting the donations that are needed, and the county has mentioned partnering with us to help use their PPRTA funds as a kind of a gap stop measure until we get there, but there's not a specific, this is how we're going to bridge that gap.
Okay, because a lot of them, it's not a huge difference, but there's some of them that it's a pretty big difference in how much you have money set aside for to purchase, and others it's a very large amount of land. Okay.
Yes, it's going to have to be a constant negotiation going forward.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Anything else on that while I'm up here?
Councilmember Rick?
No, but thank you, Brandy. I do have a question for Christie. Additional dwelling units. Where in Fountain do we allow additional dwelling units? Because if memory serves me, when I was on the Planning Commission, we said that we didn't want ADUs in PUD.
We don't allow any sort of additional
If we're going to use
dwelling units.
acronyms, can we please
Correct.
explain what they are?
An ADU is an additional dwelling unit, and within Title 17, which is the zoning ordinance, it doesn't allow for any additional dwelling units. There is an allowance within the residential RA zone district and the large lot residential LLR zone district to have a tiny home, which would be subject to this transportation impact fee, should it be passed.
Thank you.
Okay, and I think I saw in here that we can use these TIF dollars, the Transportation Improvement Fund dollars, to match with grants as part of matching grant funds, if that's a requirement in the grant.
Remember that specifically?
You need to work on your coin flips so you don't have to do this.
Yeah.
That's correct. It's outlined in section 5.5 of the study.
Okay. All right, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Do you have the page number? We're trying to look at it.
Oh, yeah, it's 40,
40?
40,
Okay, yeah, I thought I had seen it in there.
5.5, the
Okay.
second bullet.
All right. And that's really important because a lot of the funds, a lot of the grants that we get, they often have a 10 or 20% matching fund. So again, this is going to be money well spent on this study if we can use that money to boost what we can get through, PPACG or other various fundings groups, so. All right, does anybody else have any questions on this ordinance 1776? Is there any okay.
Sorry, I wanted to follow up on the question you had specifically about that table 14 and specifically, I think the project you were identifying that was a low percentage was that north-south loop.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why is because only a small percentage of that future project is actually going to be in Fountain. A lot of it's going to be out in the county. A huge chunk of that cost is allocated to the I-25 interchange. And that'll probably be paid by CDOT down the road. I mean, that's a $50 million chunk. And so Fountain's role in that thing is a tiny percent. And so
Okay.
we'd be looking at other grants and other, outside of Fountain monies to fund the rest of it. That resonated with me because that was a question that we had when we were looking through it. And so it hit me. I wanted to go back and look at that a little bit. So just wanted to follow up on that.
Okay, great, thank you. That's good to know. All right, I don't see any questions from anybody in the audience. All righty, and is there any further questions for anybody in council? If not, what would council like to do? Councilmember Applegate?
Yeah, I recommend approval of ordinance number 1776 on first reading.
Okay, Councilmember Rick?
Second the motion.
Okay, I do have okay. I didn't want to make, were you just trying to make, did you have a question, Councilmember Dunn? Okay, I want to make sure. All right, so we have a motion on the floor for approval of ordinance 1776. If there's no further discussion from anyone on council, please vote.
I apologize. 7 yes, motion carried.
All right, congratulations, planning, and thank you for a lot of work. A lot of work. Thank you very much, appreciate it. All righty. We're on to item 9G, authorization to reclassify 4 part-time transit driver positions to 4 full-time positions. Mr. Evans.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. We are back in front of you tonight to hopefully make some adjustments to our transit driver situation. We've got, as you know, we've been in front of council now, I think this is my second or third time, to discuss our problems of being able to find CDL drivers. As all you know, we attempted to raise our salaries, which I know is very much appreciated, and I think it has helped us retain the current drivers that we have. But out of a total of 10 allocations, we currently have 5 drivers, one of which only drives on Saturdays. So they're really not even a part-timer. We've got 4 of our drivers that are really carrying the load. That has resulted in us having to alter our routes. We've had to cancel some routes. There's been days if someone calls in sick, we have no method of finding anyone else. And we've really got 2 dynamics that are at play here. Number one is the CDL issue that is going on all over the nation. The second is that we're really not having success finding folks right now for part-time positions. And that's not something that's unique to our transit. We're having that in other departments, just about every department where we have part-time positions. And you'll see some of those departments in the future come to you looking for solutions as well. So in this one specific, what we're looking at doing is again, trying to take some progressive steps and see if we can enhance our transit driving positions so we can actually attract folks that are interested. So tonight we're here in front of you basically to propose taking 4 of our part-time positions and transitioning them, reclassifying them to full-time positions. We've done some scheduling, we've done some different options on scheduling, and we think we're going to be able to run a full schedule if we have 4 full-time and then 2 to 3 part-time, depending if they're one day. As an example, the gentleman that drives for us on Saturdays, he also drives for Mountain Metro during the week. So he started with us, went to Mountain Metro, then he came back and said he wanted to continue with us part-time. So we appreciate that, and those are unique. So I really can't sit here and tell you that all our part-time folks are looking for 29 hours a week as our part-time do. Some of our best drivers, and we've got one gentleman in the crowd with us tonight that'll probably speak, but he was one of them. Some of our best drivers are retired folks. And some of them don't want a full 29 hours. They may want 10 a week, work 2 shifts and do 16 hours. So it's very flexible on what they would work. But with 4 full-timers, we think we're going to be able to attract to fill those 4 positions and then supplement with part-time positions. So that's what the request is this evening. As you see on your commentary, as you go down, it will not impact the hourly wage. They will still get credit, whether they be part-time or full-time, for their years of service, whether it be with Fountain or other transit entities. And this, again, just for those folks that aren't familiar with our transit funding, 100% of the transit funding comes from our Moving Fountain Forward initiative that was passed back in 2009. So we do have a substantial balance in that fund, right about $2 million. So we can afford it. And the additional cost for the full-timers, actually, if we don't fill all 10 of those part-times, we probably won't see any more additional cost to what we already budget with 10 part-timers every year. And this will not impact any other general fund departments as well. But another issue that Bob is dealing with in transportation is we've got more requirements that have come down for CDL drivers. So as an example, we do have a gentleman that used to be an employee here at Fountain. He's interested in coming back and joining our transit, but he doesn't have a CDL. So Bob and his team have been searching to get him CDL training. We are going to sponsor him to go and get that. He's going to commit to us a certain number of years to work for us if we do that. But they're having difficulty finding schools. They're having difficult finding locations. And Bob's having a difficult time just getting his CDL drivers in streets higher classification because they're just not offering them right now. So the cost has gone up, the class size is limited, trying to find schools is limited. So we've got a bunch of different dynamics that are hitting us, and this is one proposal that we've got. Out of our current drivers, we've asked the question how many of them would be interested in going full-time, and we've got 2 that are interested. And then we've got 2 others that we may be able to bring on that are also interested in filling those positions. So we'd hope to implement this in June and hopefully get our transit back up and going for the summertime without any cancellations and altering of the routes. So that's all I've got, but I'd love to have some questions if you've got them.
Sounds like a business opportunity for somebody to open a new business training CDL drivers, huh?
It does.
Yeah.
And Bob, isn't the one down here off the interstate, didn't that close?
No, it's still open.
Is it still open?
They're still open. The problem we're really having, we've got some people that are offering B licenses, which are what we need for the buses, but they're just so full right now. And a lot of these schools, just based on, they're out there for profit, a lot of them do not want to just test. I have some drivers right now that have their B permits, but they will not test them because they haven't been through their school. So they want to get that money for the entire school so they can make that profit and then test them at the end. So we're really working through a lot of those challenges now. I found a few people that will do a B test, but it's very limited and very hard to find.
Lucky thing with Mr. McDonald in his old career, he's adept at putting on training academies. So he's looking at building our own so that.
We are, yeah, I mean, in the
so that
future, I
he'll be
think-
able to certify them, we won't have to go outside.
Yeah, based on the need of the city, we are working on becoming a licensed facility in the future. There's some federal mandates, of course, that we have to meet, and I'm working on setting up a program right now. I'm hoping by next year, we'll be able to have that in place if all works well.
Great. That sounds like.
Save us
yeah.
thousands.
Yeah, that sounds great, thank you. Councilmember Applegate?
Yeah, Fountain Fort Carson wouldn't work with you on that. They wouldn't need the S portion, but they could get the B license there if they'd work with you for a certain amount.
We're around Fort Carson.
Fountain
Oh,
Fort Carson.
yes, no, those are some of the people, that's who I am actually sending some of our people to get a B test right now. So they are willing to do the B tests.
Right.
But the problem we have is, based on the requirement change that happened February 22nd, anybody, if you had a permit prior to February 22nd, you could test out under current regulations. If you do not have a B license prior, or a permit prior to that 22nd, you have to go through the entire new curriculum with the ELDT, or entry-level driver training, the theory training, the skills training, before you can even go to DMV and get a permit. So those are the challenges that we have, and we are not licensed, and Fort Carson, they cannot do the classroom portion for us. Right now, they can test out, but that's all they can do. So we'll get some of our people through that B portion, but for the people that we're trying to hire right now, we still are gonna have to either send them to a school, which really is our only option right now, is to work with some of the CDL certifiers, the truck driving schools that do that B training. and
They don't
get
have
that
their own
training.
classroom.
Not for that,
That's surprising. I worked for a little bus company and
yeah.
they had it.
Yeah, right now, they can't do the classroom portion. They can do they are doing some of the testing for us, but they're not doing the entry-level driver training or anything like that for us.
Yeah, I had the school bus one, and the S portion was real hard. That was harder than the B.
Councilmember Applegate, did you have another question?
Nope.
Okay, Councilmember Duncan?
When you said part-time positions, are you having problems finding part-time workers, or, so no one wants part-time? They want full-time?
Give you an example, at least with the transit department, boy, I could go into stories with parks and with our code enforcement, our neighborhood services, but we had this open, John, I think 3 months?
Yeah, almost 3 months.
We got one application,
One application.
set up an interview, didn't show up. So 3 months, we got one part-time application, and they didn't show up to the interview.
And that was after, and we went out, and the HR department worked really hard to, Pikes Peak Workforce Center, found trucking websites and posted on trucking websites. I mean, it was a real exhaustive effort over 3 months, one application.
Yeah. Part-time's tough right now. Yeah.
Okay, is there any questions from anyone in the audience?
I knew he'd be coming.
You're hired.
Oh, so if I could pass the physical, I'd be there tomorrow. So, but anyway, so I'm Rick Clements, and I used to drive here, I used to teach out at the school down here. I worked for Colorado Springs. And so when I came over here actually I came from Fountain, Fort Carson. And so when I came, I brought 3 drivers with me, because if they come over with me, is that there was no split shifts. It was a solid shift of, as if of 7.5 hours. And if we do this with a full-time position, you're gonna have people coming from different school districts just because they want a straight time. They don't want to be split. Even Colorado Springs Transit, or I guess Mountain
Metro.
Transit now is that they've got split there too, unless you've got seniority and then you can go on to a solid thing. But that's true. And so if you go down the highway and you look in the parking lot of that trucking school down there, and it's full. And when it's full, that's a good indication that our economy is in the pits. It's just because people are looking for jobs. And right now, the trucking industry is hurting. In the paper today, they're cutting the independent drivers right now 30%. 30%. You know what's happening to those guys? They're not getting any money for their fuel costs. Look at the cost for the fuel. Fuel is crazy. I mean, gasoline is high, but look at diesel, it's almost double that. It's killing them, it's killing them. And so what happens is that we're feeling it where? They're in the grocery stores and so forth. I know I'm getting way off track, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
But anyway, I'm saying is that this is something that really needs to be done, is that these guys need to be full-time, and they need something that's gonna have some benefit. That's what's gonna draw people in. Because, you can give them more hours and you can give them more high pay, but if you're not gonna give them something else too, because they're just not gonna come. Because they're gonna look, because they can go to the school district, work a split shift, but they're still gonna get benefits. And that's what they want. They're looking for benefit. So anyway, I say, please approve this thing. Okay.
And where's he taking you to dinner afterwards?
Yeah. I think Rick wanted to go full-time back in the day, didn't you, Rick? I think you wanted to go full-time. Yeah, we've had several requests through the years.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Is there any further questions from anybody on council? All right, seeing none, what would council like to do? Councilmember Duncan?
I move to authorize the reclassification of 4 part-time transit driver positions to 4 full-time transit drivers.
Okay, and Councilmember Corey?
I'd like to second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to reclassify 4 part-time transit positions to full-time. If there's no further discussion from council, please vote.
7 yes, motion carried.
Thank you all.
Thank you. All right, good luck. Hope it works. All right, on to new item 9H, Resolution 22-023, a resolution approving and adopting a fee schedule for costs incurred in the administration and processing of license fees, service charges, applications, permits, vehicle inspection fees, and other fees and charges, and authorizing the waiver or reduction of certain fees or charges. And this is Ms. Huffman.
Schedule?
That's what you do. We did bring staff though, with questions on this.
We did bring staff.
When you weren't there.
And you just dared to take a
That's what
couple
she
hours off,
does
didn't
every
you?
year.
I'll tell you, Mayor and Council, actually, Joni Carneal from my office did a whole lot of background work on this item. She did meet with each and every department to review the current fees, any fees that we felt that we were not being reimbursed for correctly, either based on increases in the industry or just things that we had been overlooking, have been included in this fee schedule. So we did include and have multiple staff members here if you have any questions on any of the exhibits within the fee schedule. And typically this would be done annually or semi-annually to update these fees, but there are a lot of changes in this one. So have at it with your questions.
And is every exhibit in this going to be looked at tonight, or is there any going to be changed?
It's my understanding that Exhibit F is going to be pulled from this item just for, is it just a delay in review for those fees? It'll just be a delay in review for those fees. So if this item does pass before council tonight, it will be as amended minus Exhibit F.
Minus Exhibit F?
Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you very much. All righty. So we're looking at everything except item F. Is anybody in council have any questions or discussions for any department in any of the fees that are being implemented in any of, and when you ask, please refer to which exhibits and give us all a second to get there. Councilmember Rick.
I wasn't
Oh,
sure you wanted, I didn't know you wanted the exhibit, but the question is, I believe it's the last exhibit regarding parks and recreation. There's a fee for
Okay.
use of the Cumberland Green Disc Park.
okay, hang on just a second, let us get there.
I'm trying to get to it myself, so I apologize.
That's okay.
It's at the very, I believe it
Yep.
is at the very end.
It is Exhibit H, park fees.
My question is, since we're doing this in Cumberland Green, have we discussed it with the Cumberland Green Homeowners Association? Have we asked them for feedback on that? Are they okay with us doing that? Because there's going to be, if we're inviting people to use it, special events, that's going to create additional traffic in the Cumberland Green area. And the Homeowners Association has already approached the city about building a parking lot for that park to get traffic off of their streets. So I wondered if we had approached them and gotten some feedback.
Councilmember Rick, I can answer that for you. We have not reached out to the Metro District for Cumberland Green. The disc golf course is actually owned and maintained by the city of Fountain. We have been approached on just a few occasions from different organizations wanting to host a tournament there. And so we want to be able to allow for a fee if they want to have it exclusively. We have actually recently spoken to our streets department superintendent to see about parking, on-street parking, to see if we can alleviate congestion when and if those tournaments do occur. We don't currently have one in the hopper applying for a tournament, but we want to be prepared if they are so that we can recoup some of those costs of putting out no parking signs and ensuring the safety of the community at that park.
Okay. I would encourage someone to reach out to them, and I would also encourage staff to take a look hard, like you said, at finding alternative parking if we're going to have a tournament of some kind to try and alleviate the congestion in that area. Second question, unless someone has another one. Let me find it here. City attorney fees. What are we talking about as far as city attorney fees?
Anytime
that's
you go
the-
into his office, just hand him your paycheck, that's what
that's
it
right.
means, so yeah.
That's right.
Yeah,
I mean, we're what, 2:45, or no, almost 2 hours in. No, that is, what I've realized is there are situations in which, that basically the taxpayer shouldn't pay for the service that I provide in a situation. And so if I'm reviewing an application or having to assist a developer, for example, with something that I would normally, in my normal course of business, wouldn't assist with, then this would be something that we could charge them a consistent rate to do. Why? The reality is I've never really charged that before, because I kind of just want to help out. But the reason that it made it this time is that in the course of a particular matter of litigation, that I wanted to be able to point to something and show that the time that I had spent on this particular issue and recover those attorneys' costs and fees, and that's the rate at which I can justify, and that's for this particular industry, that's on the very, very low end of the rate that what I would otherwise charge for the work that I do. So no, that is not the rate that the city pays, but it's the rate at which any work that I can do should be reimbursed to the city.
Okay,
In those situations.
I appreciate and understand the explanation. I would just make sure that, developers, et cetera, know upfront.
Yes, yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
hey, if we do this, you're gonna be billed and here's what the fee is. Don't want them coming back going, hey, I got this surprise dumped on me.
Yeah, absolutely. And the reality is that we've told them in those situations, we have told them up front, and then we've just not done it. And that's kind of what we've offered. And so that's not something we do very often, but that's why it's one of those things that should be in the fee schedule. But we're going to be very careful about how we use it.
Okay, and then lastly, for Chief Heber and Chief Joyce, if you can please reach out to Mr. Rainville about the Schedule F.
Absolutely. I'll make sure I do that tomorrow.
Yeah, the big concern he raised to me is there's an open flame permit in there, and his question was, if I have a fire pit in my backyard and I light a fire and I have an open flame, or I have a grill and I light up my charcoal, does that qualify under the open flame? That was one of his concerns, and I just wanted to make sure that it got addressed, but thank you, Chief Joyce. That's all I have, Madam Mayor.
Okay. And another really good reason to have the fee on there for the city attorney is sometimes when we do contracts, we will do in kind through our planning department, and that counts instead of having to lay out money in a matching grant for something, we can do in kind. And if Troy is reviewing documents for one of those, then we can also add that into our in-kind gift. And we have a fee schedule for it now, and that will help us defer some actual cash we might have to lay out.
Great point. Yep.
Yeah, I just gave you another job. Aren't you appreciative? All right. Okay, Councilmember Corey.
So on the business license, going from, you said 55 to 65?
Okay, hang on. Which exhibit is that in?
That's under J.
Exhibit J?
J.
Okay, give us just a second.
Yeah, go ahead, everybody, follow along.
Okay.
$10 increase. I have to ask why.
We've found that we actually went through a quicker, more streamlined electronic process with our business licenses. That was the initial reason for the last increase that we had. Now with this new and improved electronic format, it actually has to go through planning and code enforcement, and it takes a lot more work on their end to do the review through this electronic format in order to get those approved, denied, and/or through a hearing process. So we're recouping our internal costs.
Gotcha, okay. And then the one, I think I had it here a second ago, the exhibit with the fire, the EMS and everything. F, yeah, yeah.
That's F, and we pulled off F.
Oh, we pulled off F?
Yeah, we pulled off F.
Oh, okay, never mind then.
Okay.
Okay, that's all I was wondering.
All right, is that it then?
Yeah, that was all I had.
Okay. All righty. Are there any questions from anybody in the audience? Okay, seeing none. Is there any further questions from any council members? Councilmember Rick?
I don't have a question, but I was gonna make a motion.
Okay, let me make sure. Councilmember Duncan, did you have a question or were you
I
gonna?
do have a question.
Okay.
The recycle fee on Exhibit K, what is that? Recycle fee per vehicle for $1? Is that when I have an old car and?
No, we just recently implemented that $1 fee. We have so many vehicles coming to the recycle center from all over the
Oh,
place.
okay.
And so
Now
it's
I
just
know what it
$1
is.
per.
Okay, Okay.
You thought you were going to get a bargain there, recycling your car for $1.
I was like,
huh?
my goodness, I know a friend that needs to come over here quick.
It's
Oh,
just, it's
goodness.
cleaner when we consolidate all of those fees into this fee
Okay.
schedule.
We've
Yeah.
been through that.
Right, okay. Okay, now, Councilmember Rick.
Move to approve Resolution 22-023 minus Schedule F.
Councilmember Hinton?
Second.
Just to double check with our attorney, is that, and our city clerk, is that the correct motion? Motion to approve minus Exhibit F.
Let me just make one clarification that when you say minus F, I'm assuming you mean that the previously adopted fees for fire are still in place. But
That-
this just would remove the
re-
changes to them.
Correct.
Okay,
This would just remove the changes on Schedule F.
perfect, okay.
Okay, I
Thank
don't
you for
think we got a
clarifying your
second in
motion.
yet. Did we get a second in? I did. Okay, so we have a second. Do you agree to the,
I agree.
okay, so we have so just to restate it, right? So we have a motion and a second for Resolution 220-2, taking away Exhibit F, but leaving in place the existing fees, just not any new fees. That's been motioned and oh, for heaven's sakes, I've lost it on the last one of the evening. We had a motion and a change, and you agreed to the change? Yes. Okay. Any further discussion from anybody on council?
That's all, folks.
All right, if not, please vote.
Seven yes, motion carried.
All right. All right, thank you, everybody, thank you very much. And we are on to item 10, correspondence, comics, and comments. He said that's all, folks, and so I lost it over here. Correspondence, comments, and ex officio reports. And we will start with Mr. Trainer tonight.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just have really one quick item, and that's just to let everyone know we had our last, well, not really our last, our next to last legislative workshop or committee meeting. Legislature is wrapping their work up tomorrow, and then we will have a wrap-up meeting with our lobbyist, and then we will bring in sort of an overview of everything, that we did and sort of a wrap-up. He's got some work to compile with him, but I just want to let you know. And I think actually that's worked really well. That partnership with Monument, it saved us quite a bit of money, and there's been some really good dialogue on a lot of these. So, thank you.
Mr. Trainer, I need to give up. You want to just run this for now? Mr. Evans. Troy.
The only thing that I wanted to mention, I had requested an executive session this evening, but I changed my mind. No need for it anymore, so we don't have to wait around. Unless somebody else has a good reason, we can do it, but
If the
I
city
don't have
clerk,
anything.
does the city clerk agree to that we're not going to vote on the minutes?
Yes.
Yes, okay. All right, Chief Heber.
Ma'am, I just wanted, for the record, Chief Racine, his grandfather was actually chief here in the 80s, so that's a little known part of history, so he has some chief in his blood,
How cool.
so that's good. 2 weeks from now, you hear from the fire chief. We'll give you an update on current operations, working on an AMR contract, impacts to public safety with the growth, so you can look forward to that. And when you see our Exhibit F again, it will be tamed down quite a bit. We'll make some minor adjustments for inflation and cost of service, but we're going to relook at some things in the next year or two and bring it back to you when we want to update it more complete. That's it. Thank you.
All right, Chief Joyce.
I have nothing for you, Madam Mayor.
All right, Fire Inspector. Okay, Christie or Brandy? Nothing. John.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I just had a bit of good news to share. Last week, we finished our first construction project on Fort Carson as part of our General Facility Construction IGSA. As a reminder, this was an electrical project that we did for the 4th Combat Aviation Brigade of the 4th Infantry Division. We installed some conduit and electrical work that hooked up what's called a downdraft table in their maintenance bay. And this table, it's got a suction device on it. When it's turned on, it sucks down all of the toxic dust and everything that comes off of some of the aircraft parts that the maintenance teams work on. So we completed that first project and are gaining momentum with that IGSA. And I just wanted to share that good news about how the city of Fountain is directly supporting the mission and readiness of our Army on Fort Carson. Thank you.
Dan.
Nothing this evening, Mayor. Thank you very much.
All right. Anything else? Nothing further. City Clerk?
Nothing tonight, thank you.
IT?
Nothing this evening, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Duncan?
Just want to say that I attended the El Cinco de Mayo Scholarship Gala. They gave out $1,000 scholarship to well-deserving kids. So that was a good gala to go to. May is also considered National Mental Health Awareness Month. And I would just request that we light up our city building in green to promote and encourage everyone to wear green on May 15th. That's Mental Health Awareness Day. And if anyone is having any issues with mental health, you can text TALKS to 38255. And that again is text TALK to 38255. We all should be concerned about everyone's mental health. Just want to also give a shout out to those who helped with the Fountain Youth going to the Capitol. It was a great experience. Scott made it all happen, and thank you so much for all of your hard work that you did to help get that together. And again, and then I was having such a horrible day yesterday, John, and when I saw that ad about the youth council, I'm telling you, I could have just danced around the room. So just tell Cassie I said thank you, and that's all I have.
Councilmember, I guess I turned off. Councilmember Applegate?
We got nothing. Thank you.
Oh, there we go. Councilmember Estes?
Nothing this evening?
Councilmember Hinton?
Just want to give a quick shout out. I was able to attend the Homefront Military Network luncheon. They have combined forces with Homefront Military Cares, and so they're a Homefront Military Network. They used to be Peak Military Care Network. So it was a good event. I was able to talk with the Mayor Southers, for a little bit, and talk to a couple Colorado City Council members. So it was a good opportunity and eye-opening to be able to do that and to just have some shared knowledge. So I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, it was a great event. I always love it when you get to go to Penrose House and just kind of pretend like for 5 minutes you could live there. Yeah.
Just 5 minutes. For 5 minutes, yeah.
Yeah. Corey?
Nothing at this time, Mayor Thompson.
All right, Councilmember Rick?
First, just a reminder for everybody, next Tuesday, we do have our budget workshop. So please plan on being there. Secondly, thank you to Chief Joyce. Got to have lunch with him last week, went over some concerns. Appreciate him taking time out of his day to do that and getting back to me and addressing those concerns. So thank you for that, Chief. Finally, thank you to all of our city employees for the invite to the Employee Appreciation Lunch. Good time was had by all. I enjoyed it. Thank you for the invite. I appreciate being included. And hopefully we'll have many more of those. And that's all I have, Madam Mayor.
It's just so exciting to be able to get out and know people anymore and get out and go to stuff. I mean, it's kind of sad, but.
I forgot something.
Oh, Councilmember Duncan?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I would be remiss. I didn't have it in my notes because I just thought it would be on the top of my mind. But I just want to say thank you to our first responders for the awesome job you've been doing. I woke up to a call this morning, and within less than 2 hours, you had a fire out. And, you know, it is so appreciative to be able to know that you're out there and that you're working hard for us. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah, I would really suggest people get out and whack those weeds. It's going to be a dry year, it looks like, and I'm sure code enforcement and fire department would really appreciate you getting out there and getting it sooner rather than later. It's amazing. We've had 3 fires right on the freeway, and I have a huge concern. And Todd, I don't know who you need to talk to. I really have a huge concern over the fact that our public safety vehicles cannot get to where they need to be. With the first fire that happened, I sat there and watched from my balcony that there was nowhere for people to go on the freeway to move out of the way for the fire trucks to get where they needed to be. And next thing you know, Bandley was backed up. And I was very, very concerned that fire spread so quickly just in a very small area. But But there has to be a way with the people that are working with CDOT or something to assist with getting our vehicles where they need to be, because it's only a matter of time before they can't get there fast enough.
So Mayor, absolutely zero over promising and under delivering on this one. We are going to meet with CDOT, I think, is it next week or in the next couple of weeks, we're meeting with CDOT. So we'll talk to them. They are going to be adjusting traffic in the next couple of months into the lanes that they just paved. So we'll
Yes.
remind them to come up with a solution for those needs. We were talking about it today in our exec team meeting. In my time here at Fountain, as well as with the county, I've never seen so many fires, starting in vehicles and then ending up on the side of the road as we have in the first just couple months of this year. So we'll bring that up to them. But again, it's CDOT.
Right.
So I can't guarantee you they'll do a thing about it.
I understand, but I think we really need to be expressing our concern that our ambulances and fire trucks and everybody, they cannot get there. They get in that cement area where are the people supposed to go to get out of the way? And there just something has to happen before we have a fatality
We'll give it a try.
with them just trying to get there. So if, I'll bring it up, I continue to bring it up when I'm at meetings with CDOT, but I just think the more voices we can have in this conversation, I think it would be good. So, all right. Lots of meetings going on, lots of stuff going on. Fountain has a great reputation out there, and I'm so excited that people are getting out and about. And I'm so excited they're going to be done tomorrow night at midnight at the Capitol. Oh, my goodness. Hopefully less damage, right? All right. Anybody else before we leave? I mean, it's only 8:01, folks. All right. We are done.